Welcome to episode 7 of All Things Sobriety. Today we welcome Jenn Woodward, founder of Conscious Energy Awakening. Jenn integrates the 12-step program with yoga, chakras, mantras, and mudras to create a unique yoga for recovery program, filling a spiritual gap in traditional recovery offerings. Jenn began drinking and using drugs as a preteen after joining the stoner crowd for acceptance amid bullying, which led to truancy, time at a group home for troubled teens, and manifesting into years of unstable living and relationships. She entered treatment on March 18, 2006, almost 20 years of sobriety, after one last binge on St. Patrick's Day, and she remained sober ever since, later turning her trauma into a career as a motivational speaker and entrepreneur. She is a staple in our community, and I am deeply honored to have her share her story today. Welcome to episode 7 of All Things Sobriety. Today I have Jenn Woodward. She is the founder of Conscious Energy Awakening here in the Central Coast, San Luis Obispo. And since I don't know Jenn too well, we've only crossed paths a few times, different events and things like that. I'm going to let her just kind of lead her own intro and kind of give us a taste of who she is and what she offers here on the Central Coast.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Christy, for having me. It's really a pleasure to do this. So I am the founder of Conscious Energy Awakening, like you said, and that's for people in all types of recovery. So it doesn't have to necessarily be drugs and alcohol like my recovery. I personally have 20 years sober, from all drugs and alcohol, nights and weekends included. And I also belong to some sister, programs that has helped me be okay with communicating with other people. So, so the recovery part is you could recover from drugs and alcohol, you could recover from terminal illness, you could recover from codependency, you could recover from hoarding, eating disorders. I'm also a local therapist here at the Central Coast. So I am completely 100% trauma informed, and I hold a really sacred and safe space for others. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So what a vast offering. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's kind of recovering from something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you feel like that recovery process, no matter like the trauma, the experience, the grief, whatever it is, do you feel like the process can kind of be the same?
Oh yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. So part of the program is, we walk through the 12 steps, and I'm not a part of the program of, Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, although I belong to AA and I participate in AA, and I'm a sponsor and a sponsee, and I go to meetings, and I've done step work for 20 years over and over and over again, every which way and backwards. uh, we do also, like, the mantras and the mudras, and walk through the steps through the chakras. So it's pretty unique. For me personally, I love this because I've walked through the 12 steps with just about everything you could think of. At first, I came into, the program in 2026. So March 18th to 2006 is my
Mhm.
sobriety birthday 20 years ago. And I made it into a rehab, an outpatient rehab. And I was broken. I wasn't one of those cute little, like, functional alcoholics or addicts. Like, I was living in my car. I,
Mhm.
I, I chose drugs and alcohol over, my family, my friends, my relationships, my school that I was attending, just everything you could think of. I chose that over everything. I didn't have a a relationship with others or even want a relationship with others until I got sober and I actually valued relationships, including money, including relationships at work, having the integrity and all of that stuff that we gain, right, when we get sober. But I've walked through the 12 steps with cancer. I'm 4 years post, July 7th, this July, so in a few days. And
Literally.
literally, and I walked through those steps. And if it wasn't for my foundation of sobriety, I wouldn't have been able to walk through it. There's one thing, I mean, there's a lot of things that I heard in early recovery, but one of the ones that really stuck with me is we don't drink or use no matter what. And there's so many no matter what's in life. It's like unbelievable, right? You lose your job, you gain your job, you retire from a job. You break up with someone, you get with somebody, or you get married or get divorced. Death, cancer, you name it, you could drink over it. If it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, that was my excuse. And so I never did anything to learn how to, when I was out there drinking and using, to cope with a lot of trauma. And I came with a lot of trauma. I came
Mm-hmm.
from a dysfunctional family. None of my parents aren't alcoholics or addicts, but I qualify for the dysfunctional part. So
Sure.
ACA,
Sure.
adult child of an alcoholic, and the dysfunctional part is what I qualify for. And then, I've had some, traumatic things happen to me. But if
Sure.
you don't drink or use no matter what, and you walk through the steps and you walk through your feelings and your thoughts and your emotions, and you know that feelings aren't facts and all those wonderful things that you hear, then you can make it out one more day without drinking or using.
Oh, man. That's deep, girl. That's deep. No, I love it. Like, I resonate with so much of it because I had a rough kind of upbringing too, and I from the earliest age just started drinking and never learned any other way to cope with just casual life happening to you.
Right.
I would end up blowing things out of proportion just to justify my drinking
Yeah.
and like blacking out and all of that. And I can't agree more. Like, I feel like sobriety has given me the life skills and the foundation to really walk any path and get through any adversity or challenge that presents itself to me,
Hmm.
and it's for me also.
Right.
Come up
Right.
stronger on the other side and just to be able to move through something, you can in turn just give more, like teach about your experiences, exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
You have gone through so many different things, so now you can help so many different people living very similar experiences that you've already walked through.
Yeah.
And the foundation that sobriety gave me in my life is equally as strong, I feel like.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like it was just learning life skills, and
Absolutely. It's life
walking
on
with
life's
it.
terms. Yeah. 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 What I always say is, kicking drugs and alcohol was Xanadu, you know? But life on life's terms, that's the real bitch.
Okay.
I'm
Absolutely.
like, I'm all, that ain't nothing. Okay, I'm not going back. Okay, now everything else happens, right? Where you have those cute little envelopes that say final notice, and you actually open it now, and you call them, and you actually don't hang up on them or block them or change your phone number 532 times, and actually say, hi, I'd like to settle this right now.
Hmm.
That was what I gained in sobriety.
So true. It's
Yeah.
like it's having the emotional capacity to like be like, I see this and I can put my emotions to the side and stay neutral about it because I know I'm like, once you've had enough life experience, you know you're gonna get through it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and when it's your
Yeah.
time, it's your time. And if you could be at peace with that,
Yeah.
then you just handle business, and you keep,
Exactly.
especially with money, that's a big one that I've been working through for like the past 6 years. And
Yeah.
the more neutral I stay in that relationship and just open,
Mm-hmm.
the better it gets.
Yeah.
The easier it
Yeah.
gets to like look at certain things and
Mm-hmm.
not have such a negative reaction or just like
Exactly.
feeling super overwhelmed. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. It's like the thing is that to have that love and compassion for yourself and to allow yourself to walk through anything like you shared is so imperative for that step, right? Because like what it says, when you get sober is taking that next indicated action, right? Next indicated step. And you don't know where that's going to lead. It could go
Mm-mm.
here, it could go there, it could go, it's not like
Mm-hmm.
this,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. But it's like if you keep doing that next indicated step and that next indicated step, no matter how hard it is, no matter what kind of outcome you think that you may have, if you just trust and keep moving forward, it's going to work out. And the cool thing is I'm not in charge. So it
Yeah.
works out for, my higher power is in charge. My angel guides, true love, divine love, true source, all of that, the universe, like it's just so amazing just to let go and let God and not even have to worry about the outcome,
It's so true. It's so
right?
true. Yes. No, I absolutely love that. I let go and let God, I think a little too hard sometimes. I was just actually thinking that in the hammock. I thought that would be a cute little reel because I was just like passed out with my hat on, and I'm like, when you let go and let God a little too hard, and you're
Yeah.
just kind of coasting, man. Because
Yeah.
um, and going back to what you said about just taking that next action, that's really what I've found through sobriety and other challenges that like rebuilds from the ground up like true inner confidence in myself
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and trust, like you mentioned
Exactly.
as well. And those
Yeah.
two really start to go hand in hand once you understand like, or
Mm-hmm.
you just notice the fear or the doubt or the insecurity coming through, or
Mm-hmm.
the I don't want to look at this, the avoidant, and
Mm-hmm.
you just allow it to pass without attaching so strongly to it and then
Exactly.
reacting from that state. It's
Totally.
like, no, like I got like you got this.
Yeah, because what is fear? False evidence appearing real. And if you don't have
Hmm.
any evidence to prove it, then it's an irrational fear and you can move forward.
Yeah, and you can either hold on to that
Hmm.
and most of the time the fear, it doesn't
Hmm.
always actualize. Sometimes it
Right.
does. Sometimes
Yeah,
you end up manifesting it, not
to
on purpose.
totally.
But
Totally.
um, most of the time, those really like worst case scenarios and stuff,
Hmm.
you never experience them, you
Hmm.
know? And
Hmm.
so it's just something that we hold on to. And I always think like not necessarily have to overcome, but just even
Hmm.
building a relationship with that also, your relationship to fear.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
always
yeah.
going to be there.
It's
Like
always going to be
part of the
there.
human experience. We're going to experience
Hmm.
that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
All
I
right. Well,
remember.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I remember when I first got sober and, I was very fearful and very angry. And a lot of the women just came and embraced me, and I didn't
Hmm.
know what it was like to have a platonic relationship with another woman. I knew what it was like to have a romantic or sexual relationship with another woman, but I
Hmm.
didn't know the platonic part. And to have somebody really truly embrace me and say it's going to be okay and really actually believe it, that took me out of the fear.
And being
Yeah.
able to give that back to women,
Exactly. Give
is
back.
like,
Yep.
how that feels, like how bad you just needed that
Yep.
hug, from
Yes.
that soul that can
Yes.
just be that pillar of strength when you could not, where you were just crumbled.
Yeah.
Like it's really important to establish those relationships. And
Yeah.
I mentioned in another episode, that's one thing I actually really value about this community here. I've hopped
Mhm.
around kind of a lot,
Yep.
but I've never witnessed a community like the 805 in the empowering
Yeah.
women, even in the sobriety. And maybe it's just because I've aligned those people over
Mhm.
time, but
Mhm.
it's so incredible and it's so powerful. And there's so
Mhm.
many gifts like that just want to be shared here all over.
Mhm.
And a lot of the
Yeah.
same people I do, and it just feels so
Yeah.
it feels, like bridging that gap to where we've been for so long, so many centuries,
Yes.
and where we're going. And you can really point those people out, man.
Yep.
But they've all had pretty rough starts. I'm gonna tell you what, they've all been
Yep.
through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I wanna hear, like, I really want to hear a little bit of like your backstory,
Okay.
what your life looked like. Living out, how'd you get to living in your car and all of those things? What kind of drinker were you?
Okay.
And how you feel you kind of ended up in that space and what was your turning point?
Yeah. Yeah. No, these are great questions. So I started drinking when I was 11.
Ooh,
Yeah. Yeah. And I was
wow.
and I was a child that lived a couple of houses down from another child, and her parents were heroin addicts, and so our thing was is we learned how to escape real fast because I had the dysfunctional part at my
Mm-hmm.
home. She had the dysfunctional part at her home, so we would go into her garage, we would gather up her mom's half smoking cigarettes with the lipstick on it, thinking we were so cool, trying to
Mm-hmm.
find a match or a lighter, go in the garage, hang out, and then grab a couple of her dad's beers. And
Wow.
so it just started that way. And I had a horrible junior high experience,
Mm-hmm.
so bad that I was bullied. So I had a choice in eighth grade, the summer of when Appetite for Destruction came out, to either go with the stoners
Mm-hmm.
or get my ass beat, and I didn't want to do that anymore. And so I hung out with the stoners. I dyed my hair purple. I listened to, Guns N' Roses and all the other stuff, and those people accepted me. And because those people accepted me, I started smoking pot. I started doing acid. I
Mm-hmm.
started heavily drinking, where we would ditch school and we would go to one of the girls' houses, and we would, go into her parents' liquor cabinet and drink. And I was a very sophisticated drinker. So I would I, I would want to drink out of a nice glass from one of her parents, thinking, look, thinking like I was like the shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still gonna make it a vibe though.
I'm
Like
so
I'm not drinking out this can.
so but I would get drunk and I would pass out and I would black out and I would put myself in really bad situations.
Even at that
So
young age.
even at that young age.
Mm.
So then I realized I didn't know what alcoholic was, but looking back, I know that I was an alcoholic because uh, in the summertime we used to go to New York a lot because my whole mom's side of the family's from New York.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd hang out with my cousins. one time we hung out with my cousins again at 11, and I went to their house, and one of my cousins was like, let's drink some rum. And our biggest and brightest idea was to go into the jacuzzi, have rum and milk, and eat all of her tomatoes. So normally you would say that's
Unsafe.
not a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But because looking back now, I realized I'm an alcoholic because I didn't stop after that. She puked and her parents took care of her. I was like on and popping after that. I puked, but I was what you call like a bulimic drinker. I would puke and then I drink some more, and then I puke and then I drink some more. So I got used to that, and I loved the way it made me feel, and I didn't feel like I was getting bullied anymore. And so later on in high school, hanging out with the stoner crowd and ditching and all that, they used to have truancy slips back in the day. And they
Mm-hmm.
were about like this, stack this, big. And the principal was like, and they were blue.
Mm-hmm.
And the principal was like, you know what, we're going to put you into continuation school. And I was like, cool, that's awesome. So hang out
So
with
pretty cool.
stoners, go to the beach, because I was born and raised in LA. So I was like, free
Oh,
Zuma,
wow.
drinking beer, smoking pot, bonfires, like,
You're
fuck
like, say
yeah.
less.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that. And meanwhile, my parents were not able to control me, and I would
Mm-hmm.
run away from home, and I would get into trouble, and I would sneak into like places that I used to play at years later, as a sober woman and as a person that drank and used,
Mm-hmm.
like the Roxy and the whiskey and all those places, because I'm a musician, right? And so very early on I started sneaking in to those clubs because I knew how to get in, because they were partying and I was partying, and so they didn't care how old I was.
Wow.
Well, my parents didn't like that much, and my dad was like, "I'm gonna send you to a place called Vista Del Mar, not the psych ward, but a home for troubled teens." And what was interesting about that is my dad lived there with his siblings when he went from foster home to foster home to foster home, and it was a Jewish orphanage back in the day, and it saved his life. So he knew exactly where he was going to send me.
Okay.
When I got there, I was still partying, I was still having a great time, but I was living with 11 girls in one cottage, and I went to school there. I lived there. My parents gave up their rights, so I was a ward, of the state, and I got to get my high school diploma, um, but I had to do, credits. Well, while I was there, I I decided to run away, and I wanted to get divergenized. And so what happened was is that this is part of my story, because later on I became a motivational speaker for women that got raped, and that's exactly what happened. I had a very traumatic experience to where I ran away, went to a party in Palmdale,
Mm-hmm.
and got divergenized by a gang rape. So this is something that I don't drink or use over. Later on in life, when I got sober, like I said, I got to speak at Vista Del Mar. I got to speak at women's shelters. I still do,
Mm-hmm.
and I took that tragedy and I turned it to empowerment. And when I first got sober, I talked, at the podium about that, and so many women came up to me afterwards, and those same women that embraced me were like, "You're not alone," you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so after that, I just drank and used to escape. So first it was acceptance because I was being bullied.
Sure.
Then it was escaping from reality because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even want to think about reality.
So at this point, like how old were you when this was?
So So I lived at Vista Del Mar from 15 and a half to
Hmm.
17 and a half.
Okay.
And so I was 15 and a half, almost 16 when this
Okay.
happened. So very early
Okay.
on.
Mm.
And when I got out, it was still happening. Again, I didn't know that I was an alcoholic. I never went to any meetings.
Hmm.
I was drinking and using, and this just continued and continued and continued. And so how I ended up in my car was that I went back and forth to my parents' house. I went back and forth with lots of girlfriends that I lived with. I mean, I got to the point where, I had those IKEA bags, those blue IKEA bags, and I just shove all my shit in there. I didn't like properly pack for shit, like I didn't put like the little papers on like I would do now,
I love that. You made a
I
full
was like,
circle though.
I was like, we're going,
I am not
like.
carrying this pattern out into my adult self. No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. And so after a bunch of horrible, dysfunctional, codependent, drug and alcohol induced relationships, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so I chose to go into my car. I chose to live in my car because my best idea was to, date married women, and pretend that I was raising their children with them when when the husband didn't even know. As a matter of fact, one of my first amends, I went to my sponsor and I was so excited. I was like, "Oh my God, I made an amends." And she's like, "Baby," her name's Odette. She's like, "Baby, you're not even on the ninth step. What are you talking about, girl?" And I said, "I went to blah, blah, blah's house, and the guy answered, her husband. And I said, I'm so sorry for sleeping with your wife." She was like,
Perfect delivery. I mean, flawless. So good.
she, she was
So
like,
good.
"What? Are you kidding me?" So I ended up in the car.
Oh
I
no.
I I ended up, because I chose to.
Mhm.
I was not hireable.
Mhm.
I knew how to go on interviews. I was really good at that. But I
Really?
was but I never got hired. And
Okay.
if I got hired, it would be for a very short time.
Right.
I got kicked out of LA Unified for selling drugs. I
Mhm.
got kicked out of my so I got a bachelor's. I ended up going to CSUN and got a bachelor's in child psychology, which was awesome. During drinking and using,
Hey.
barely made it through, but I did, and I actually
Mhm.
got on the dean's list at one point. And so I knew what I wanted to do, and so I went for my teaching credential. And oddly enough, I ended up going back to Vista Del Mar and teaching for them for a little bit.
Oh, that's
So,
amazing.
yeah, so it was a full circle,
Yes.
moment. In sobriety, when I first got sober, one of the first meetings I went to was an outside meeting in NA, and I sat next, I shared, my experience, strength, and hope, and I sat next to a guy, and afterwards, and these were like the God shots that started to happen. I sat next to a guy, and he was part of LA Unified, and he's like, "Do you want to get reinstated?" And I was like, "No, actually I don't." But those were like those God moments.
Mhm.
Another meeting I went to, which was for alcohol, I did the same thing happened where I sat next to somebody that was in the board of CSUN because I got kicked out of that program, but not my BA when I went to for my master's. For originally I was going to go for special ed credential,
Mhm.
and I decided not to, but before I decided not to, I got kicked out, and
Mhm.
so I decided not to pursue it, anywhere else. But in sobriety, those God shots started happening, and like I was saying, I ended up in my car. I got kicked out of my job. I wasn't hireable. But you know what my job was going
Mm.
to like 14 meetings a day.
Yeah.
It just like I held on and I stuck with the winners. And my sponsor at the time was like, we're going to a funeral, we're going to a celebration,
Mm,
we're
put
going
you in
to a barbecue.
every environment.
we're like, we're like, but it's
That's
kept me
good.
sober. It kept me
Hmm.
sober. And so, I stole from people, right? Money, time, and energy. That's why it's so important for me not to, that's what I teach as a therapist and as, an educator is if you steal my money, time, and energy, it's not even worth it to me, and vice
Totally.
versa. you know I learned how to value relationships, value money, value time, value people.
Hmm.
And that's when I started walking through, the 12 steps. But I made it to a outpatient rehab. In my car, I drove myself because I started getting involved in cocaine and all that stuff. But the way
Hmm.
I got there was I used to hang out at the clubs in West Hollywood. And there was this big black guy that looked like Shaq, and he's gay, and we were dancing and having a good time. And he hands me his card, and normally I would either take the card and do a line on it, or
Hmm.
like throw it away. uh and I kept it. And he said, you're gonna call me in like a month. And so I'm like, whatever. And I go into the guy's bathroom, get my drugs, and then leave, and blah blah blah. A month later, I called him. He was my life coach. He was my Eskimo in the program. I called him and he said, all you need to do is break up with this crazy ass ex, which was
Period.
a woman, which was fine with me.
Hmm.
Um, stop smoking cigarettes. I did for a little bit, but then I, continued until I really stopped, right? And I haven't smoked for years now.
Hmm.
And get sober. I want you to go to this place called the Matrix in Encino, and it's an outpatient rehab. And I said, done. So March 16th, remember, or I'm sorry, March 17th is St. Patrick's
I
Day.
was
So
gonna
I
say St. Patty's
yep. So I
Day.
partied, drove my happy ass to the
That's
rehab.
awesome.
And that's it. I got sober and I never looked back. And I got to sit next to my good friend Corey, who was part of this whole um thing for yoga for recovery that
Mm,
I do for conscious energy awakening.
yes.
Yeah, because he's the one that said always trust in the process, trust in the process. Well, I sat next to him and I knew him for a little less than 20 years because he died of a brain tumor. He was going
Mm,
through cancer while I was going through cancer. But isn't
mm.
that God too?
The connections, like connections in sobriety are like it's weird. Or somebody that you'll meet and you get really close with, like reminds you of someone from your past that you kind of like needed to make amends with, and then you
Yeah,
have this like new friendship develop. Like it's just
yeah,
interesting. Once you're
yeah.
present and you can see things and like start to make those connections, it's so beautiful. And thank you for sharing all that. I had just one question on like timeline is were you going to the meetings and then you started using cocaine and then you ended up taking yourself to outpatient? Were you going to the meetings first? No.
No, no,
This was
no.
all after the outpatient pro. Okay.
Yeah,
I see what
yes.
you're saying.
Yeah, so all of that happened before my March 18th, 2006 is my sobriety date. I've
Okay.
never relapsed. Relapse could be
Wow.
someone else's story, but it's not my story. And right away, I went to meetings. Like as soon as I started
Okay.
doing the outpatient, I started going to meetings, and that's when I met my first sponsor, Odette, who's still in my life and who I love.
How precious.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I have a question. Is there any of the 12 steps that like really stood out for you or that impacted you? Maybe even when you first were going through them, that like
Yeah.
you really felt something shift with um,
Yeah.
that particular step.
Yes. Yeah. And I'll show you actually. So the step that really stuck out was I went to a lot of different meetings. Well, one of those meetings was at a woman's house. Her name was Melinda. She passed away of cancer. She was actually dying as we were doing the meeting, but her husband had dinner first, and then we would gather around in her room if she was okay with it and do the meeting. And so very
Wow.
early on, I was like, fuck God, I don't know any shit, higher power bullshit, this, that, blah, blah, blah. So the third step was very, very powerful for me because I came to believe in a higher power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. And I actually started to like learn how to pray. I was like, how do you pray, Melinda? And she's like, let me give you this. So I already gave away one of them, but I have one. And so she gave me a pair of dice with God written on them. And she said, all you have to do is drop it on the ground, right? And then go onto your knees and pick it up and just be grateful for whatever, right? Just thank God for whatever. And that's what I started doing. And it just became like this thing. And even to this day, I do gratitude lists. That was one thing that was really tragic for me when Corey passed away because we used to do gratitude lists together,
Mhm.
and I still have it, in my text thread that I just can't get rid of it right now. And when he died, five other people were like, "We'll do it with you, Jen." So now I have like five, like I do with five other people. But that was a big one. Was the third step,
Mhm.
and to change the third step prayer and to make it my own was like really powerful too, because then it became who I was, and
Sure.
it wasn't so much like reading from a text.
Yeah, you developed your own relationship with it,
But
which
then
happens.
listen, exactly. But then listen to this. So then this is the dice that Melinda gave me, and then when I got sober for my 20-year, right, my 20-year
Mhm.
sobriety birthday, or when I celebrated my 20-year sobriety birthday, one of my friends that didn't know that story, my good friend Frederick, who I've walked through this program with for 20 years, my trudging buddy, he gave me a pair of God dice. So,
Really?
yeah. So it was just so like those things still happen.
I've never even seen a god dice. Like that's so wild.
Yeah.
So this program and how you integrate all of these 12 foundational steps into a yogic practice, was
Yeah.
this something that you were taught, or is this something that you integrated into like your own practices? Like, how did that come about for you?
It, yeah. So I was a part of a yoga teacher training out here in the Central Coast.
Yes.
Yes, at Let's Get Tuned, uh,
Yes.
with with Natalie, and she's one of my teachers. So is Christine from Ninth Limb. So
Mm-hmm.
I do Ashtanga with Christine, and I do Kundalini with Natalie privately. And then also I go to some classes. And so when we did the yoga teacher training, I was like, I'm I first of all, I was a year out of treatment, cancer treatment, and I just wanted to do it for myself. I didn't necessarily want to become a yoga teacher, right?
Hmm.
I really didn't have a desire to like teach in a studio.
Sure.
And as I was going through it, I was like, you know what? Wouldn't it be cool to like do this like with recovery too?
Hmm.
So I literally typed up, for sobriety, yoga and sobriety, and met this wonderful woman who lives in New Jersey. Her name is Gwen, and she's also one of my mentors. And I became an ambassador for her program. I told her that I want to do yoga for recovery, not yoga for sobriety. And she was like, "Yes." And so we work every Tuesday morning at 5:30 a.m. my time, and then her time, 3 hours later. And she has guided me and mentored me the entire way and has believed in me. But yes, I in the middle of my yoga
Whoa.
teacher training for 200 hours, I did her all of her trainings, which lasted like a year and a half, and became a full ambassador. And now I am an ambassador, of their program, and it just all clicked. And with Corey and the trust in the process, and there's certain things that I love, which are the chakras, and I
Hmm.
incorporate that as a therapist too. And so, the 12 steps I love, but the 12 steps with all different recovery, the 12 step of like not, because a lot of people don't want to go to, a meeting, and this is not in replace of a meeting. This is not in replace of therapy. It just all started to click together, and I was like, okay, so like when you're in the warrior pose, like for example, right? You have the like it was reminded of me actually a few days ago, but we already had it to where like when you're in the warrior pose, you're setting your boundaries because you're firm on your feet and you're setting
Hmm.
that foundation. And so it all like started to like click and align, and between the chakras and the mantras and the mudras. And I chant like an hour a day, you
Nice.
know yeah. And
Yes.
so whether it's a cappella or with my harmonium or with guitar or whatever, so I became a different kind of musician. And in the spiritual foundation, and then going to India recently and doing the bhakti. Now I'm part of a 300 hour.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
I love I really resonate with using the chakras for different layers of healing.
yeah,
And you can kind of start at the root, work there, and then, open up as you go. And I've always really been into energy healing and more of that spiritual healing and things like that. And it's
yeah,
really nice to have that bridge gapped, like people harnessing in on the spirit aspect of sobriety or recovery. Because,
yeah.
there's place you can go to heal
Yes.
mentally, emotionally, physically,
Mm-hmm.
but there's not a lot for
Mm-hmm.
um, reconnecting with spirit. And I think,
Exactly.
and I think that is, for me, that was my starting point. I didn't do any therapy or like physical labor or physical like working out. I just started with my spirit and just tried to get as quiet as I could and just asked
Yeah.
questions like how do you want to be expressed, and then I learned more about all the energy healing and everything. So like my recovery was very spiritual, and it
Mm-hmm.
balanced out a lot of the mental things, a lot of the mental blocks and emotional blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really profound to have that connection,
Yeah.
to be able to like bring in that what I feel like is a huge missing link in the recovery world.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I just really resonate with all of that, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we're we really love it. I do it with joy. Um, and we're on our second cohort, and it is really just so beautiful to watch somebody transform. And a lot of these people, they do have other programs and some of them don't, but to actually like walk through, like set your intentions and walk through something other than drugs and alcohol, you can,
Mhm.
but if you choose not to, you get to see, like you said, that spiritual connection, that trusting in a higher power, the whole, the interconnectedness of everything, and to know that there's other ways to just trust you're going to be okay. Yeah, like through chanting, I work out stuff, you know?
So,
It's kind of like, and so like when I was out there, playing, at all these different clubs in LA, and having a great time, and I've written over like 150 songs, wrote
ooh.
and composed, and so like even at Vista, like right now I'm in the process of publishing my old poems that I hand wrote at Vista, right? So it's gonna be called Quiet Hour at Vista Del Mar, because that's when I wrote them. But like
And you're not
that is
alone.
how I healed.
Yes.
Yeah,
There's so
yeah,
many people that I want them to bring their journaling like to the light after you
yes,
maybe they're a few years in, or maybe as they're going through the process.
yes,
You see people that do that and it's so I get chills. Like it's so raw and refreshing from like
yes,
such a performative world that we're in to like
yes,
be able to share that. I think those moments are invaluable. And that's really the
absolutely.
art that's gonna like heal the planet too. I want to see you on stage, by the way.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Maybe not that state, but
Not
you
that
know, we can,
stage.
or I don't know, we can. We'll see. I
I know.
don't know.
We'll see what Shauna has in mind for the fall, but I'm just curious, would you ever offer like what you do, the yoga integrated into the 12 steps? Would you ever offer like a teacher training?
Oh, that maybe, because I am an ambassador, so
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, through Gwen, because I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
think that there would be a lot of people in the spiritual community that would, and the sober community that
mhm,
would be into that, myself included.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Well, maybe you'll be a part of our next one.
Yeah, no, I know. It sounds fabulous. I know somebody else that I know went through it and she was really uh, she was in the beginning of her journey and you could see. You can
Yeah.
see like that energy moves quick in sobriety too.
Oh,
Like that
yeah.
first year was actually something that I find myself still trying to like chase
Mm-hmm.
because it was so like my life was just like night and day so fast. And I
Mm-hmm.
haven't had like that big of a transformation since.
Mm-hmm.
And I witnessed that in other people that,
Yeah.
they move really, really quickly once they're ready to just like drop the bottle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
things just start happening for them. They experience alignment maybe for the first time and a flow
Yep.
state maybe for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
And it's just such a cool thing to witness.
It sure is. It's rewarding in itself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like there was any time in your sobriety journey that you felt like you had kind of plateaued and maybe felt like going back into like a lapse? You didn't relapse at any point, which is like
Mm-hmm.
based on your history, quite exceptional, in my opinion.
Thank you.
But was there any like, I know a lot of people speak like on the 2 year like plateau. Did you experience anything like that?
Honestly, I didn't I've always had a really great foundation. So from the beginning, I hung out, like I said, with the winners. I know everybody that I've known for 20 years. My one of my best friends, Lana, passed away. So, I've watched people, die that I loved very dearly, because of this disease.
Mm.
But for the most part, like I said before, you don't drink or use no matter what, right? And so all the no matter what's, I had not only my sponsor, but I had the sober community, I had my spiritual community. That right there is something that I definitely want to share, with like the viewers for
Yes.
you, is that a lot of people will will stay with just going to meetings, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's great, but there's more to life than just that, right? So what I see and witness and observe a lot of the times is people get addicted to staying in that pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the opportunity, and I have the opportunity now, to say I have my yoga community. I have my spiritual community.
Mm-hmm.
I have my sober community, right? I have, my musician community. I have my Reiki now because I'm a Reiki master
Yes.
community. So like you branch out.
Out.
So it doesn't really, so have I thought about like drinking or using in early recovery? For sure. Like I'll tell you, the one time I really thought that I was going to drink was right before I was going to a meeting in West Hollywood with my girlfriends, and I couldn't find my scarf. So it's like those little things that you
Over.
think like, yeah, you're like, fuck this, I'm drinking,
Yep.
but then I go to the meeting and I share, and
Yeah.
then guess what? Every single person in that meeting's like, "Oh my God, I would have drank over this, or I would have," and you think it's silly, but at
Mm-hmm.
least you feel a part of, because you know that they're going through the same thing. So
Totally.
I feel like if you continue to work a program,
Mm-hmm.
and I also work, at the county, right? And so I've been working there for 14 years as one of the main drug and alcohol counselors, right? And I've worked in every department you could think of. So I've worked with adults, I've worked with prison release, and right now I'm working with the teen division. And what I can say is, like, figuring out what your program is, right? So is it journaling? Is
Mm-hmm.
it going to meetings? Is it gratitude list? Is it reading something spiritual daily? Is it going on a walk? Is it calling somebody? Is it fellowship? Is it doing step work? So you have like all 8 of those things, right? And you have them on a list. If you feel like you're feeling a little like off, then you look at that list and you see like, okay, this is where I'm falling off the beam, right? And then you incorporate that back, and it's like going off the train tracks. So it's not necessarily that you're gonna relapse, but you're just kind of going this way, and you can
Mm-hmm.
go this way again.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
hitting the little
right.
bumper carts or whatever in the
Exactly. Exactly.
at the bowling alley. I don't know what they're called, but the little rails. And
Yeah.
just bring
Yeah,
it
yeah.
back. Come on. You got it all the way down. You got it.
Exactly.
The last thing that I want to ask, and I have asked everybody this question,
Yeah.
is either what would you tell the not sober version of yourself that she needed to hear right
Mm.
before she got sober? Reflecting back to who she was and what would have been really nurturing for her to hear, like from a higher place that you're in now, which is really
Yeah.
beautiful. Or what would you just say? I mean, you work with all of these people. So, like, what kinds of things do you say to someone that, like, comes to you personally? It's like, I'm really struggling and I want to change, but, like, where do I start? What do I do? I'm lost.
Yeah. Well, I would say, well, first of all, I would say to my inner,
Yeah.
my inner child, my inner teen, right? And even my critical parent, because I do a lot of inner child work as a therapist. But I'd also say this to clients or anyone that I come across, or even someone in the program that's newly starting, is A, right? It's very cliche, but keep coming back,
Mm-hmm. It's great.
you know, and also I would say that you what you're feeling right now is not how you're going to feel later on. And it's also very cliche, but it's this too shall pass. And
Mm-hmm.
so like when you're in it, you think that it's going to last forever. And you're coming here, some people have the high bottom, good for them,
Yeah,
more power to them.
totally.
That was not my story.
Yeah.
And so, they think that it's going to last forever and they're going to stay in this, moment, and they're never going to get a job, and they're never going to, have a relationship, and they're never going to get out of debt, and they're never going to, never, 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 never. But as you're working towards that solution, right? It's like in the acceptance. Focus on the problem increases. Focus on the answer increases. Which, by the
Totally.
way, I read every day with my acceptance partner for 6+ years now. Okay, so that's one of my things that I do. And so, like, working towards it, then you finally are out of it, and you're going to get to see how you got out of it for the next time when you're in it. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I share with people is like I said before, kick in drugs and alcohol with Xanadu, but you're going to have life in life's terms. And as long as you don't drink or use, no matter what, you're going to be able to get through it. You might not get through it the way you want to get through it. There might be a lot of lessons involved, but it's going to get you to the point where you're going to understand how to get through it the next time, and it's going to get easier and easier. And also, you're not alone. We're here with you. What I heard very early on is I will love you until you could love yourself. We will be your strength until you could be your strength. We will guide you until you could guide yourself. So it was like someone literally was picking me up.
Mm-hmm.
And it just I felt it.
There's no better act of service than rippling out your own inner healing to others that are gonna get there. They're just not there in that moment. Like there's no
Exactly.
greater purpose. However you want to label it, like that's it.
Right. And understanding, my biggest thing today is understanding my singleness of purpose, right? And then giving it to like the bhakti, right? The devotion, the higher power, the true source, divine love, angel guides, Nana, whoever,
Mm-hmm.
and then just trusting what's going to happen is going to happen. And it's like in the Buddhist, with the suffering, right? It's the second arrow. It's like the first arrow shoots you right here. Are you going to be like this the whole time, or are you going to just like pull it out
Mm-hmm.
and see how you feel after that, so it's like the
Totally.
suffering is where we learn our lessons, and you could turn that into a positive thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love all of that. Oh, so good. Well, thank
Uh,
you so much for
oh,
sharing
thank you.
everything. And if there's
Yeah.
anything that you want to close out or share how to get a hold of you, I will always add like websites in the YouTube description and things like that. Or
Yeah.
if you have anything upcoming that you would like to invite others into, this is kind of your free space to do so.
Thank you. Yeah, well,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, we're doing our second cohort for Yoga for Recovery, which is one of our main programs at Conscious Energy Awakening. And I'm on Instagram, Conscious Energy Awakening. The actual website is conscious dash energy dash awakening. com, and all the stuff is there. We are going to put out a new flyer soon with our new dates. And yeah, I'm just excited to do this. Thank you so much for allowing me to do this. It really, thank you.
Yeah, your story is powerful and it should be heard because somebody out there is right where you were. There's no doubt about that.
That's
And
right.
I hope that this video finds them, and I trust that it will.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jen. It was a pleasure having you.
Pleasure being here.
Okay,
All
till
right.
next time.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.